I would like now to welcome all of you to the UN REDD Open Tenure, a mapping tool to enhance REDD+ effort webinar. This webinar, organized by UN REDD in collaboration with FAO through FAO, is going to provide an overview of the Open Tenure tool and sharing also some practical country examples on how the tool can be used in the efforts at country level to reduce deforestation and forest degradation. I'm Serena Fortuna. I'm a forestry officer and officer in charge of the REDD+ team within FAO, of course, a member of the UN REDD team as well. We are replicating this webinar in three languages: English today, Spanish today later in the afternoon, and then French, also to kind of differentiate and to reach a wider audience, and to give time and opportunity also to present different country examples. As you've seen here, the event is in webinar mode. We will start the event with opening remarks by Ms. Astrid Agostini. Then we will enter in technical discussion through the presentation of Ms. Maria Paola Rizzo, presenting us on the tool itself. And then we will move into concrete example with Mr. Brian Makabai, bringing us the experience from Uganda. As also you started using the chat by mentioning, saying hello and where from your country, from where you are connecting, you can also use the chat throughout the webinar to indicate and pose some questions. Please feel free to use the webinar chat throughout the session, but especially during the question and answer session, which will be moderated by Ms. Amanda Bradley, who will read out the questions that you will pose, or we'll also open the microphone to kind of to allow one or two participants to elaborate a bit further on the question indicated. If time will not allow to answer all the questions, then we will also kind of reach out bilaterally through email to try to kind of answer your doubts and your questions in a later stage through email. Also, at the end of this webinar, you'll see that a satisfactory survey will also be kind of prompted up for you to fill in and to help us continuously enhance this type of events. Lastly, I would like to inform also that this webinar is being recorded for distribution purposes and to kind of share also with participants that are not being able to participate in this very moment. So with no further ado, I would like to now pass the word to Ms. Astrid Agostini, who's the REDD+ and National Forest Monitoring Cluster Coordinator here in FAO, the Forestry Division, to give some opening remarks. Astrid coordinates FAO works on REDD+ and NFM, is also a member of UN REDD Management Group. Astrid has more than 20 years of experience in sustainable agriculture, environmental economics, natural resources management, and climate change. So we're in fantastic hands to start up with our webinar. Astrid, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Serena, for this kind introduction. And for me, it's a really great pleasure to very warmly welcome all of you as participants to this one-hour webinar session sponsored by UN REDD, which introduces the open source software Open Tenure and discusses its use in supporting countries and communities in advancing with their efforts to halt deforestation. Just to introduce again, of course, UN REDD is a collaborative program of FAO, UNDP, and UNEP, which was created in 2008 in response to the UNFCCC decisions on the Bali Action Plan and REDD+ at COP13. And the overall goal of the program is to reduce forest emissions and enhance carbon stocks in forests while contributing to national sustainable development. The UN REDD program supports nationally led REDD+ processes and purports informed and meaningful involvement of all stakeholders, including indigenous peoples and other forest-dependent communities. And this involvement is really important both in national processes and in international processes. The program has more than 60 countries as partners, as Serena already mentioned. Today's session has been planned specifically as to support UN REDD member countries, their governments and civil society organizations, and it's great to have representatives here from all those groups to reduce deforestation, particularly those operating at the nexus between land tenure and forestry. Of course, tenure security is widely recognized as a key enabling condition for the successful reduction of deforestation and forest degradation, which is at the heart of implementing REDD+, but also now a key contributing element to deliver on and further enhance ambitions of the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions. Research and experience have shown us that while tenure security is not a guarantee for reducing deforestation, it is definitely one of the key underlying elements that encourages land and resource owners to protect and manage forests sustainably. And we in UN REDD have been conducting research and publishing findings on these topics. And I think my colleagues will be posting here a link to one of our recent technical papers, namely on the importance of securing collective tenure rights for REDD+. And in this paper, we provided evidence and case studies on how securing collective tenure rights, such as through community forestry in Nepal and indigenous ancestral domains in Peru, had a demonstrative positive impact on reducing deforestation. UN REDD has also been supporting its partner countries to address tenure issues in the context of reducing deforestation directly. This has entailed a number of assessments of tenure regimes at country level to identify gaps and to engage, importantly, stakeholders in designing new policies, laws, and actions. Now, as many countries have moved forward with REDD+ implementations, delivering, really achieving already some key results, and in some cases already obtaining results-based payments, either through bilateral or multilateral mechanisms, through public or through private finance, and increasingly, of course, we're looking very much at the opportunities also at mobilizing a lot of private finance. There has been increased and important attention now to the distribution of benefits and to forest tenure and forest use rights, because this is really at the heart of making the benefits available and count and letting the action happen at ground level. And now in this, open tenure really comes as a hand-on and on-the-ground tool that can support and enhance such efforts. This open tenure tool was developed by FAO in the larger context of our work in relation to the voluntary guidelines on the responsible governance of tenure, which of course most of us know under the shorter version of VGGT. And this was facilitated by FAO, the development of the VGGT in 2012. They've been applied in over 90 countries and translated into 16 languages. They really are a landmark document which incorporates the priorities and perspectives of a very wide range of stakeholders across the globe, and also outline best practices for responsibly governing tenure rights. And I think, again, my colleagues will be posting a link to this document, and really everyone is encouraged to always refer back to it because it is such an essential reference point to us. And while it's already 10 years old now, it remains just as relevant today as when it was shaped, and we still need a lot more ambition to make it realized across the globe. So the VGGT and its principles really underlie the development of open tenure, and this tool is a practical software that's been used so far in 9 countries to help communities record their own tenure rights. Amongst the countries that have used the tool, we will have a chance today to learn specifically from its application on the ground in Uganda. And just like as with the VGGT, the Open Tenure tool emphasizes the principles of transparency, gender equality, consultation, and participation, which are at the core, of course, of REDD+. And to name just one example, in Open Tenure, in the process of applying it, we make sure that really women are equally represented in the training sessions on Open Tenure, but also that through the application of Open Tenure, women's land rights are recognized. And so we take a gender responsive approach to overcome existing barriers that women face. At the same time, Open Tenure really is innovative. It uses technology in a way to give potential to accelerate our efforts towards reducing deforestation, which, as we know, continues at really alarming rates. We also know that for many countries, solving land tenure issues, reducing land and forest conflict, and bringing more clarity and security to tenure rights is a very long and difficult process. But because it's long and difficult doesn't mean we can't try to advance on this, because this is desperately needed and is at the core also of helping to achieve REDD+ goals. Open Tenure was originally designed to help communities document informal rights, but the tool is equally relevant for governments and formal tenure rights recognition. And I think when my colleagues now present this tool in more detail, you will see that it is a very useful tool to help improve tenure governance and reduce deforestation and degradation. So I thank you all for your attention and for joining this session today, and I look forward to the discussions. Back to you, Serena.
Thank you very much, Astrid. Much appreciated, and we'll make best use of this remaining 45 minutes that we have available. Thanks a lot for that. Maria Paola, now is your turn to start with a technical presentation. Maria Paola Rizzo is a land tenure officer at FAO Social Protection Division. She's been working for 11 years with FAO already by now, and she's been engaged and supporting a wide range of countries between Africa, Asia, Oceania, and Latin America. So the breadth of knowledge that she can bring in is very wide. She's been working on land and natural resources tenure, particularly on the implementation of land information systems, but always bringing in that high attention to customary rights, indigenous people, women, and vulnerable people's land right. With no further ado, Maria Paola, the microphone is with you for the next 25 minutes. So I'll be knocking on your door in case needed. Thanks so much, Maria Paola.
Thank you very much, Serena, and yes, keep an eye on the time for me, please. So I will share my screen with no further delay to start looking at the tool. Okay, so as Astrid already mentioned, this is a webinar organized by UNRED through FAO. I'm a FAO land tenure officer, and we would like to present to you this tool, which is called Open Tenure, which is a mapping tool for sustainable and for strengthening sustainable land use management, but also we see it as a tool for enhancing REDD+ efforts. Now, going to the next slide, what is Open Tenure? So just to give you a view of what Open Tenure is. So Astrid already mentioned the voluntary guidelines. So the tool that we developed in FAO is a tool for the application of the voluntary guidelines, for enhancing the transparency, for improving the services delivery in land administration, and for securing customary land rights. So I also recommend you to also have available a copy of the voluntary guidelines, which gives all the principles, the basic principles for good and responsible tenure of lands, but also of forestry and natural resources. And the tool is a free and open source software. Is a solution for recording information about land and also about natural resources. It's very important to understand how this is a geotechnology, but is in the framework, has been developed and needs to be implemented in a wider framework, which is the framework of the application of the voluntary guidelines. And in particular, it is implemented following a participatory methodology. So it's a technology, but it's also, this is why I'm referring to it as a solution, because it's a solution which combines the technology with the participatory methodology. And in the case of communities and indigenous people, we are talking also about free, prior, and informed consent. So this is all the relevant aspect and the relevant framework in which the Open Tenure tool, which is a software, is used. From the point of view of the tool itself, it is, as I said, is a software which includes geospatial mapping systems for on-ground surveys and demarcation. You might see that we have here the icons of a tablet and also of a screen of a computer. So it is used on the ground to map land, and it's providing a easy way to collect spatial data while in the field. Again, being a tool for the implementation of the voluntary guidelines, it does not only look at formal right information, but also it does take into account all the relevant information related to the land, but also to the natural resources, but also to the human rights perspective. So it allows to incorporate all the relevant elements which are connected to the land tenure and to the as well as the forest tenure. The application can be configured in order to be consistent and to match the needs of the specific context, or can be customized. And there is a technical assistance available through FAO to train local users and developers to tailor the tool in order to fit the needs. So more in detail, I mentioned that this is an open source solution. So it's an open source software which we have developed for Android mobile application, from Android mobile device, also for iOS devices. But we particularly focused on Android mobile devices because Android is more affordable and sustainable. And it's a tool, it's a software that has been implemented for fit for purpose mapping in order to collect information related to the land or the area to be mapped. Fit for purpose gives the possibility to tailor, as I said, the solution in order to collect all the relevant information about the land or about the forest. So it's a modern approach also in land administration to be able to collect information that in the past was not part of this kind of collection of data. The tool, you can see some pictures here on the right. The tool has been used in several countries and allowing citizens and community recording of tenure rights and other data using mobile devices. As I said, the center of the philosophy, let's say, of the implementation and the use of this tool is the participatory approach. So in order to be able to involve and include all the stakeholders that have interests over the land. The tool, the mapping tool on the ground allows the user to record details about the climate, so about land right holder, and also it captures information, spatial information about the boundaries of the land or the boundaries of the forest, and also to collect the information and all the documents with the evidence that supports that claim. So documents and photos to support the claim. I will briefly then also mention about some the work that we have done in several countries where we have trained not only in case of, for instance, in case of land administration, the land administration surveyors, but in particular training young people and members of the community so that the tool is used also by non-professional surveyors, because the tool is very intuitive, as an intuitive use, which allows together with being an open source, also this easy of use allows low-cost application and community participation in the process. Community participation, as I said, including young people and women, and creating also a connection between young people and the eldest of the community, so that the eldest who have the memory of the information about the natural resources of the land can share their knowledge with the young, and the young of the community usually are more have an easier way to use technology, so they can become part of the exercise and of the way to record the information and to protect their own rights. Also, it has to be mentioned that the tool we developed this software in 2015, testing for the first time the tool in 2015. But since then, with the use in many countries and with several lessons learned too, we have provided a newer version in the beginning of this year. In January 2021, we released an upgraded version, and also we improved the installation instructions so that there is an easy way to install the application. We will see the technical details after getting some information about principal concepts of land tenure, because, as I said, the Open Tenure tool supports communities in the documentation of and recordation of the tenure relationships. So some basic information about that. What does it do, the tool? It collects information related to the relation of the people with the land. So we have an object, which is the land, which is the forest, for which the tool collects information about location, about boundaries, about dimensions, with maps, with also information, topological information. So we have, from one hand, we have the object, which is the land. Then on the other hand, we have the subjects, and the subjects are the landholders or right holders or human settlement over the land. And these are the subjects. For these subjects, what Open Tenure does is collecting information, data, the name, address, but also the ID cards, documents, photos, and signatures. So we have subjects, object, and then we have the relationship between the subject and the object. And these are the rights. Rights or restrictions or responsibilities. So a party, a person, or a group, or an entity can have a relation with the land, which might be a right, like ownership, for instance, or can have some responsibility over the land, keeping the forest, keeping the protected areas, or there might be some restriction over the land. So, for instance, in one case, an owner of a land might have his own or her own right restricted because another person has the right, for instance, to walk through the land. So all of this information can be collected using Open Tenure, but not only this information. As I said, the Open Tenure tool is implementing the fit for purpose approach, which means that it has the flexibility to incorporate additional information which are related to other relevant data related to the land or to the forest. For instance, natural resources or features which are over the land, or for instance, species that live, animal species that live on the land. So in case in a forest context, the tool will allow to map state forest, community forest, or protected areas, buffer zone, and the customary rights and human settlements that can be found in the area. And as well collect natural resources information, as I said, also animal species or type of plants which are in the forest, and how these actions can be beneficial. Astrid, in opening remarks, highlighted how the tenure security does not, let's say, solve the problem of deforestation, for instance, but it's a basic block of that. So having the way to collect information, to capture information about the shape, for instance, of a protected area, the information about the type of trees or animal species which are living in the protected areas, and also mapping the human settlements that are at that moment settled on that area, can help in reducing the deforestation and the forest degradation by having an information of what is the situation at that moment. So for instance, in case of human settlements, it can support the regularization of settlements, and so reducing the illegal settlements, and having a secure and an evidence of what is the situation of the rights and the use of the land and of the resources, helps in reducing conflicts and also preventing conflicts. Now, going to the next slide. Okay, we go. Right. In detail, the Open Tenure clarify document safeguard customary land rights through a participatory approach, increase local understanding of land use, because people participating, the community participating into the exercise will also increase their own understanding, empower traditional authorities and communities to carry out the process, and capacity building, land administration and self-government of the land, and also reduces risks related to the uncertain land tenure. It is an affordable methodology that can be scaled up so that customary lands are protected and recognized. Now, very, very basic information. How does it work? The system, I mentioned that it has there is the mobile application. There is a mobile application which is installed on mobile devices, and with an open source software which is used to record in the field the relationships between the people and the land, capturing all the relevant information, as I already mentioned. But it has also, as I said, the geospatial component, which allows to map the land using satellite imagery together with GPS measurements. And then there is the other component, which is a web-based community server, which hosts the central database, where all the information is uploaded from the mobile devices onto the community server, so that in the central database with the user interface, a web-based user interface, this information can be accessed by the community and can be also processed and archived and stored. Now, going to the next slide, let me just check. I see there are some question already, so we will have time for question as soon as I complete my presentation. So as I said, we have the community server, which hosts the central database with a web-based application to access and manage the data. The geospatial information are combined with the attributes, so with the information about rights, about responsibilities, but also with all the information on additional data that can be interesting. The data model is compliant with the land administration domain model, which is an ISO standard globally recognized, but is LADM extended with the concept of the social domain tenure domain model, meaning all the information which gives the information about social relationship over the land. And it's important, we will see the process for the implementation. It's important that the tool can be configured accordingly to those to the legal, social, and requirements. And the needs for the implementation of Open Tenure, there are several needs. As I mentioned already, it can be customized according to the regulation, according to the law, according to the social requirements. So there is the need to assess and to analyze the framework, the policy framework, law framework, regulation, social framework. Then very important is also to assess the time that is needed for completing the exercise. So it's important to understand the terrain, understand also the seasonal difficulties and challenging that might happen during the exercise. And also there is the need for commitment at the level of political will to sustain the exercise, but also at community level. Then we have some infrastructure and equipment need. So there is the need for internet connectivity in order to be able to use the free open source, the free satellite imagery, which are made available from Google Earth. There is the need to have a Wi-Fi in order to connect the tablets to the central database and transfer the information, and of course have a place where there is electricity, and also have computer server and tablets to go, tablets or mobile device, so that the tool can be used in the field. And then printers and plotters to print the map that will be produced by the tool.
Maria Paola,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
time.
If you can, unfortunately time is running. If you can maybe wrap up or jump to the lessons learned and close in 2 minutes. Thanks so much, Maria Paola.
In 2 minutes, So I will wrap up just saying quickly about the process. So I mentioned it's fundamental to assess the needs of the target communities or of the project in which the tool should be used, assess social and legal policy context, and have a discussion with the communities so as to involve all the relevant stakeholders. Then configure the tool accordingly to this to the result of the assessment, and then having sensitization, awareness raising, data collection, and finally participatory validation of the maps that are produced by the tool. Now, the example in the field, we will see the Uganda case, so I will leave this to Brian to show. So if you have any query about costs or about how to implement the tool, you can ask in the question and answer. Achievements using Open Tenure, there is a shared understanding of resources, who owns what and how to manage them, solving dispute during the land recordation, and it does also build the community solidarity and making it more resilient to external threats, and also supports and strengthen women and youth participation. It's important to understand, as I said, to assess readiness, adaptability, and sustainability of the technology, understand priorities, and also ensure, as I said, sustained commitment to the process. Calculate the opportunity cost related to the time needed to record the tenure relationship. And also very important is to incorporate the sound conflict resolution mechanism to avoid the emerging of new conflicts. Also, and I will close with this, clarify from the very beginning who will own the data and also the equipment that is going to be used. For any information, we have the question and answer at the end of this session, but also please contact me or our colleagues in FAO, or there is a website. We will share the link to the website to have more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria Paula. It's a lot of information to share in a in a presentation, but much appreciated. We will open for question and answers and reading also from the chat box during the facilitated session from Amanda. So we'll now pass the microphone to Brian in Uganda to hear from the experience of Uganda in actually applying the tool. So Brian Makabai is an assistant lecturer in the Makerere University. He's also a registered land surveyor in the Department of Geomatics and Land Management. I was mentioning Brian is also one of the key national stakeholders who's been trained in the use of Open Tenure and the deployment of this tool. So we'll hear from him on the experience and lessons learned. Brian has 10 years of experience in land administration. He participated in research for government and NGOs to secure land rights for the urban and rural poor. So we also will learn a lot from his experience. Brian, I'll pass the mic to you for the next 10 minutes. Thank you very much for that, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Serena. So hopefully people can hear me loud and clear.
We can, Brian. Thanks so much.
Okay, good. So can we see the slides?
Yes, we can see also perfectly the slides. Thanks again.
All right, good. Thank you. So basically, Makerere University, as they have introduced, we have a structure, and all that. These are the courses we teach in the School of Beauty Environment. But the mandate normally is to conduct research, provide education, and even outreach to the communities through, for example, assisting in the implementation of projects like Open Tenure and mapping in the communities, which fits within our duty as the university. So coming from the Department of Land Surveying and Geomatics. So this implementation was done in Kasese district, And why was Kasese district the pilot district? Now, what happened is that they took as a district an initiative, their own initiative, basically to map and register customary land to issue CCOs because of the issues of conflict between the landowners or the people, but also conflict between the owners of land adjacent to actually protected areas like wetlands and forests. So, however, the process, they did not follow completely the legal process, and also the product, that is the document that they came up with, the physical document, did not have all the security features that the ministry saw fit or had specified in the law. So because of that, they halted the process. And then that's actually the time when FAO actually came in now, and they discussed with the Minister of Lands, and then they decided they provided some funds to fund the process of first of all following the law, but also improving with the using Open Tenure, which is a better technique of mapping compared to what the district had used of just using a simple tape, only a tape and you map. And also obviously to produce a better quality document which fits all the security from forgery, which the ministry actually worked on. So then for implementation, FAO partnered with Makerere University, and that's why I managed to participate in. So we used graduate interns who are surveyors in training, Makerere staff, which I was part of, and also IT personnel from the department. So FAO trained us on Open Tenure, and also the IT team was also trained on how to set up and also maintain the community server. So, and Makerere is the one that carried out the direct implementation of this project. So they needed these skills and were well trained in the skills. So we continue actually to carry on, and for example, ZOA, the other civil society organization where they were implementing, and other stakeholders, actually it is through Makerere that actually we have managed to give them more information on Open Tenure. So Kasese district is located in south western part of the country, and it has 39 sub-counties, as you can see on your screen there. So basically what happened is that, first of all, an awareness had to be done generally, as my colleagues have shared on the VGGT principles. So a VGT workshop was held in the pilot district to basically create awareness at the centralized point, so that people are aware of these principles and actually the intervention for the communities to buy, plus also the political leadership. So, but that was not enough. We went ahead and did the community sensitizations through radio talk shows and also community meetings, plus also issuing out the t-shirts, flyers, and posters that have information on Open Tenure, security of land, safeguarding land rights of women, children, and also basically protecting the protected areas like the forests and wetlands. So, because the district had already actually implemented, we had to first start with and review the applications that were existing, but the ministry had halted. So we had to first correct that, those by looking at them and filling in the gaps and remapping where they had used actually tapes with now Open Tenure, using the satellite imagery, and also using the GPS, and then uploading this information on a community server than it actually just being in files stored in a disorganized manner in the offices. So we did that. Then when we finished, then we also called for new applications. So then that's when we went in, new applications also for those who are not benefited in what the district had piloted. So through this intervention, we got equipment, because this is crucial, as Paola shared. So the equipment involved tablets, cameras. We had motorcycles for transport because this was a hill district and cars couldn't actually work there. Photocopiers, projectors, and also computers. So the first step was, first of all, to analyze the legal requirements and convert these legal requirements into customization of Open Tenure. That was the first, because the way it came, it was not well aligned with the legal. So one thing you have to know, that Open Tenure is open and flexible, and it can be adjusted to the legal requirements of any country that's going to implement open tenure. So we trained the recorders who are like the registrars located at the sub-counties. The area land committee members are mandated by the government to survey customary land, so they were trained in this technology. And also the district land board who actually approve, who are mandated by the by legally to approve this the applications also were trained, on addition to the graduate interns and also to field assistants. So field assistants were adopted because the area land committee members were elderly and could not accustom quickly, could not accustom easily to the technology. So because they could not accustom easily to the technology, then they basically did what? We had to adopt field assistants who involved young ladies to promote for gender. In the land committee members, we had ladies. District land board, we also had ladies also participate in there. So the field teams then collected data for about 3 years, that is 2015, 2016, and 2017. However, it was not continuous because we had breakages in funding. So we are looking at roughly 3 times and of 3 months each of mapping. So we had field supervisors at the field supervisor at the district who would continuously check this data, clean it, validate it, and also before it is uploaded onto the community server. So when people would finish to map, the district land boards would sit, look and see if all the legal requirements are there. At the district, they will look if all the technical requirements are there. Then the field supervisor would look and see that if the open tenure has been used well and everything has been mapped correctly, and then this would be uploaded onto the community server. So after because the mapping was done in the field directly with the solar tablets, after the approval, and you have a minute number, instrument number, and a decision, again you had an update of the information in the solar open tenure to make sure that this information is also having the district land board decision on it. So the approved CCOs were then printed in duplicate, taken to the sub-counties, whereby sub-county chiefs are the recorders, and then these were signed. And the recorder would now issue the clean registry and the in abstract books register the this information to every client or beneficiary who would actually take the CCO, which is called the certificate of customary ownership. A CCO is the certificate of customary ownership. So the achievements, Open Tenure was fully customized to fit the legal requirements. Staff were trained on Open Tenure. Graduate interns who also involved ladies were also trained on Open Tenure. The area land committee members, DLB, and other stakeholders have been trained in solar Open Tenure. And they also, so, and as I wind up, you can see on screen there, we managed to map 404,706 parcels, which cover about 2,500 acres, which is 5,059 hectares. And this is out of the 291,130 hectares that Kasese covers, and on average, each person had 2.5 acres. So the screen, you can see the distribution of the male applicants, female applicants, couples, joint applicants, churches, schools, and even other groups which involve private forests. These were also mapped. So land disputes that were resolved, you can see them in 2015, 16, and 17. That is the category of the land disputes, which involve boundary disputes and ownership disputes. Then we had these certificates of customer ownership used in these different banks to access loans or credit. So generally, the lessons we learned is that Open Tenure can work as a fit for purpose tool, and the women, basically it promotes women's participation. The demand for registration is there in the communities. However, land is highly politicized and sensitization has to be done. Capacity development is vital. That means that training has to be done. Then physical planning and environmental protection also has to be part of the training when you're implementing these tools. And then security of tenure has spillover benefits to things like forestry and natural resource protection. Then involvement of political leadership is very critical. Thank you very much. And that was my presentation.
Thank you very much, Brian. You've been fantastically within the 10 minutes available for the presentation, but I really hope there will be nice questions also posed to you for to debate now in the next session that is going to be moderated by our colleague Amanda Bradley, who is the specialist on tenure, gender, and indigenous people from the REDD+ team. Amanda, we have, I think, 8 minutes left. So it's I have seen that there have been some questions posed in the question and answers chat box. So maybe you might want to start from there. And then if there are other questions that will come from either for Maria Paula or for Brian, you can manage those. Thanks, Amanda. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Serena. Sure. So I'll jump right into it here. We had, I think 3 or 4 questions. So I'd like to start first with the 2 questions posed by Raymond Chu Samdong in the Q&A. And I'll just read them out, and then I'll open the mic in case Raymond would like to clarify further or elaborate. And these questions, I think, maybe would go to Maria Paula. So the first one is, I'm concerned about safeguards of community data. Is there any protocol for consenting of community boundary data for sharing and reporting? And also, who will own and manage the data collected? So Paula, could you give us a brief answer on that, please?
Yeah, unless Raymond wants to say anything, I will. I will reply. Yeah, so I mentioned very briefly about free, prior, and informed consent approach and about the participatory methodology that we are using in combination with the tool. So technology by itself is not enough. It might be even counterproductive. It's important, and how we do safeguard these interests is with the participatory approach, with free, prior, informed consent by involving NGOs, by involving local communities, by involving all the members of the community before starting the collection of information. So it has a participatory and inclusive methodology, and nothing is done if there is not this consent, which has to be, as I said, informed and inclusive. As with the ownership of the data, is something that needs to be clarified at the very beginning. There might be already some regulations, some legal requirements about the data, but especially in case of, for instance, of indigenous people data and of communities data, this is something that comes out of several meetings together with the community. So there is a protocol that needs to be established before starting the actual mapping and the actual collection in the field. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paula. Raymond, would you like to comment further on the response?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maria Paula, for a brief answer. I think this is an issue that we also from the tenure facility have been so worried about, and how do we do this in practice in communities, because we work more on indigenous communities and the local indigenous and local communities, and it has been their great concern, how do we safeguard and manage their data, because it can go into a wrong hand and they are so worried about it. So it's very sensitive issue, and the issue of FPIC should be really important. And I'm very happy that you really tackle it well to start this discussion at the beginning in the engagement, so that everybody is on board and you accept all the terms and the terms and conditions before moving forward. Yeah, I think that it was really interesting. Thank you very much for the wonderful webinar.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We just have very few minutes left here, so maybe I'll move to another question here. The question from Prakesh Lamsal. He asks, thank you for this opportunity. In some cases, this tool can raise the expectations of community members for illegal land registration and eventually can create serious conflicts. What is your experience in this regard?
Exactly. If I may, I don't know if Brian wants to also reply to this question. This is a very crucial question because this is the very, very, very high risk when you start an exercise using such technologies. The risk is that you go to the field with the nice technology and then expectations are raised and you risk very high to start conflicts rather than to avoid or to resolve conflicts. So again, what is relevant is not that much the technology, but is the process, is the inclusion of all the stakeholders, and also the inclusion of the as I mentioned in the presentation, of sound conflict resolution mechanism, which means understanding what are the conflict resolution institutions in the country, but also having another approach, which is the approach of the mediation during the process, and involving the communities, neighbors, and all the stakeholders during the exercise. But during the exercise means at the beginning, when you establish the protocol, when you assess the situation, when you show the boundaries, when you show the land use, will allow you to prevent conflicts. Okay.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Maybe I could just ask Brian if he has any thoughts to share on that question, and also a question from Bertrand Tessa asking about where are the data stored for Uganda, and is there a plan to scale up to other districts? If yes, what is the exit strategy so that the district can fully own the process? So Brian, I give you the mic and ask you to be brief, please. We just have a couple, we can go a couple of minutes over, and other questions we'll answer by email. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm going to be really fast. So the first thing I wanted to start with what Paul has talked about. So to safeguard for this illegal registration, one, the stakeholders, for example, like the physical planning office, the environmental office, we map with them. So for example, you cannot map areas that are protected by the government. Number two, also we import shape files, for example, of where protected land has been mapped. So we have those shape files. So for example, we compare with what we are mapping with Open Tenure. So whenever it's illegal, we reject, for example, such. The last one, the district land board, they always go to the field and cross-check whatever we have also mapped. If it is illegal, also it's rejected. So for the case of Uganda, we completed actually everything that is submitted is passing and legal and granted by state because we have all these checks. Then for the person who talked about where we store the data, the first level is at the district. The second level, we have data sent to the National Land Information Center. So that data is also shared there at the ministry in Kampala. So those are two levels, at the district and also at the National Land Information Center. Then lastly, I see a question on transparency. We involve everyone, including the landowners. When we are mapping, they are looking, including the children, they are looking at what is being mapped, and they are free, and we share all the information. Then the last one, please allow me, Mohammed asked that, how do you deal with the internet problems? Whenever we don't have internet, we download when we are in the town, and then we save the tiles on the tablet. So when we go down there where there's no internet, we now use these tiles that are saved on the tablet. I thought he had to hear this, that actually you can work where there's no internet. You download the information where you have internet as tiles. Thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for the very practical answer to the very practical question as well. We had a couple questions here about how Open Tenure and the collection of these tenure rights recording can contribute to NFMS systems from both Moses and Deluxe in Cambodia. I wonder if I could turn it over to Serena to make a quick comment on that and maybe close the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Yes, very, very close, and then we'll very short, and then we'll close the session. Indeed, those are very interesting points and very good points indeed. Especially some of the colleagues were mentioning, some of the participants were mentioning that indeed within UN-REDD and also beyond UN-REDD, countries advanced a lot in their national forest monitoring system, right? And that's totally correct. What is very important here is also always to reflect about the process and also to encourage countries that are working on the national forest monitoring system to kind of promote community-based forestry as well. That can be an enormous advantage and kind of reinforce the monitoring both at local, sub-regional and national level. So community-based forestry is one. It's been demonstrated also in certain countries, especially in Latin America. We have some evidences from Panama or from Paraguay, Ecuador, etc., where really the connection between community-based forestry and national forest monitoring system could be also instrumental in verifying information on the ground. Open Tenure, I think, will enter into that connections between community-based forestry and national forest monitoring system. So it is very important that when it's planned, there's always this kind of a connectivity and the synergy between sort of different interdisciplinary teams to be constructed at the very beginning or to be planned in the work anyway. So the tool per se, as Maria Paola mentioned, is a very innovative and very useful tool, but it's a tool and needs to be part of a solution, as also Maria Paola mentioned. I don't know, Brian, if you actually, I've seen that you unmuted your mic, if you want to reinforce this this part of the connection between also with the monitoring system and the community-based forestry monitoring. Brian?
No. It was unmuted. Sorry.
Okay. Then with that, I don't know, Maria Paola, if you want to reinforce something on this.
I just want to mention how relevant is the harmonization of data. Whenever data collection is started, it's crucial to have this kind of harmonization. So to engage in harmonizing the data, because otherwise it will be a mess. And this will also guarantee the NFSM concept.
Indeed.
That's all.
Thank you very much, Maria Paola. And thanks also, Amanda, for having facilitated and kind of moderated a bit the question and answers. Unfortunately, it wasn't not as long as we wanted, but still we had a good 15 minutes of exchanges with the participants, and this was really enriching the discussion. Indeed, as we mentioned at the very beginning, we'll also be capturing the questions that were not be able to be answered live, let's say, and we'll contact directly the person who posed the question to answer by email. So with this, from my side and on behalf of FAO, on behalf of UN-REDD, I would like to thank our two speakers, Brian Maccabi and Maria Paola Rizzo, for having provided us really rich information, but also would like to thank all the participants, because that's the reason why we have these webinars is for you, for the countries, and to kind of share the information and promote this important tool and solution, as Maria Paola mentioned. Thanks also Astrid for the opening, Amanda, and all the colleagues who are behind the scene that maybe did not appear in the video, but actually made this webinar come true. If you're interested also in following up the other episodes of these webinars, there is actually going to be another one, but in Spanish, with the experience from Guatemala, and then a third one in French with experience from Tunisia. The dates are the ones also posted. One is today in Spanish, later in the afternoon, 5 o'clock Rome time, and the one in French is on the 31st of May, same time as this one. Thank you, everybody, and again, thanks within FAO, outside in the UN-REDD, and especially to you, to all the participants and countries. Thank you very much.